So hi, Welcome to Noise Podcast. I'm Shane,
I'm Glory.
and we're here with.
I'm Mercedes, and I play in the band Softcult.
And we have some questions to say about the new EP, Heaven. So congrats on that, by the way. How do you feel about the response to it so far?
Thanks so much. Honestly, it's been really cool. I mean, every time we put out new music, it feels so good because you're just working on it for so long, and then you kind of get nervous every time you put it out. And I don't know, this time it felt a little different. I guess I felt some nerves, but I was just really proud of the end result. Um, so it felt more like we were putting it out sort of for ourselves as opposed to like wondering what other people might think about it, you know?
That's good. Yeah,
That's great.
the EP's awesome. Been following you guys for a while. So stoked to finally be here talking to you. But the EP's awesome. Curious as to why this one is the one where you were like not super like anxiety and worried about putting this one out. What about this release was different?
I mean, I think that this being our fourth EP, that we've just found our sound compared to, the first few things that we put out. So I think we know who we are as artists and as musicians a little more than we did before. And instead of like trying to figure out, oh, well, how can we make this work? What do we like? What do we sound like? What are strengths? Now it was more about like trying to elevate things and trying to push ourselves,
Yeah.
and just trying to almost be like weirder with it.
Yeah. So like
I love that.
just a lot more confidence because you guys feel like you found yourselves finally.
Yeah, it just feels a little bit more like, I guess, natural, like you're not thinking as much, just going for it.
That's good. Hell yeah.
Gotcha. So is there any meaning behind the EP title or cover art?
Yeah, absolutely. We went in on this one. I mean, Phoenix is the one that does all the artwork and designs and everything like that. And the overall concept of the EP and the reason why we called it Heaven is because we wanted to write about how everyone's idea of what heaven is subjective and it's different for them. And culturally and within our society, there are people who are really judgmental about that notion, right? And heaven can almost be used as like this weapon to control and manipulate people and make people fall in line or feel othered. So that was the overall concept, was just kind of questioning, like, what is heaven to you? And is the world that we live in right now, is it possible to create that environment in our communities, in our social circles, in our society? And then Phoenix was really inspired by a lot of, since we're called Softcult, we want to get some creepy, culty imagery in there. So Phoenix was finding a lot of imagery from like snake handling cults and like the kind of cults that do the laying of hands and the religious revelries and sort of speaking in tongues, drinking poison. And, like those cults in like the Appalachian Mountains that are just really secluded and just like it was almost like an analogy for blind faith, I guess, like just blindly following something without ever really questioning what it is that you're being a part of and you're contributing to.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of the overall art direction that we wanted to go for.
Gotcha.
It all ties together
Yeah.
like so fucking perfectly. I love it.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
I'm glad that it translates because I mean, it was really cool making it, and I got like goosebumps when Phoenix showed me their ideas for the first time.
Yeah. And it's
Hell
so cool, like in this day and age, that artists and bands still give a shit about the EP because like I feel like with it being such a single driven world, it is so watered down to like just write a bunch of singles and then you have a project now because you put it out as an EP, but you guys actually put thought into every piece of it, not just the music.
Thank you. Yeah, I know what you mean. And it's tough. It's like a tough line, I think, as an artist in this day and age to stride because you want to put music out and you don't want to wait. It takes a long time to make a full-length album.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of effort and time and money that goes into it. And we're DIY, we're independent. So, I see the appeal and the attraction to releasing singles, um, just so that you can put out as much music as, comes to you and you're not like holding off and sitting on things for too long.
Yeah.
So I like doing that where we release songs as singles before the EP comes out. But I also like to have a body of work and like a direction and a focus point too,
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. So can you tell us a little bit about your writing process for the EP?
Sure thing. Yeah. I mean, we write and record in our home studio, which right now is kind of crazy because I just moved and Phoenix moved. So we actually don't even live in the same house where the home studio is, but we're like setting it up where it's like slowly in pieces moving.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a special EP because of that. It's like the last EP that we will have made in this space.
Aw.
But yeah, the writing process, it's just Phoenix and me. Like we do everything together. We sit down. Sometimes one of us has an idea, brings it to the other. Sometimes we start completely from scratch and we work on things, 50-50.
Mhm.
But it really isn't finished until we work on it together and get those final touches on it. So even if, like, for example, I started a song and brought it to Phoenix, Phoenix, as the producer, puts that secret sauce on it and puts those final touches on it,
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Gotcha. Love it. So what song off this EP took the longest to write, and which one is your personal favorite?
Ooh, that's such a good question. I'm going through all of them in my head right now. I think maybe Nine Circles actually took the longest to write and to execute. But that was also the last song that we wrote for the EP. But so I think maybe musically it's the most complex and it's just got a lot going on. And we were trying to be really intentional with the lyrics. And for me, that's always the hardest part is just like the lyricism. We can write all the melodic pieces, but then when we come to the lyrics, I feel like we just really won't budge until it's exactly how we want it to be. And we both have like high standards for lyrics. So we kind of just like chisel away at it until it takes form,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then my favorite? I have like multiple favorites and I like them all for different reasons. I really like Haunt You Still. I remember when we wrote that one, I was so excited by it. Like I just was just like, oh, this is a side of our sound that I felt that we hadn't really explored yet. And I loved how it came together. And I really like Heaven too. I feel like those two as bookends are really good on the EP.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Absolutely. Perfect.
So for this question, I want you to pick your favorite lyric off the EP and tell us the meaning behind it.
Ooh. Okay, cool. It's a simple one, but it is in Nine Circles. And the lyric is now I see you around everywhere, but somehow you're nowhere at all. And it's like a really simple lyric and it's a really I think confessional lyric. Like I feel like everyone can relate to that because the song is about loss and how it's hard to move on and like sometimes when you lose important people and you're in that grief process, little things just remind you of them everywhere you go. And it's like really hard to describe that feeling. It's like you feel happy because you love them and you're thinking of them, but there's also this deep sadness because you will never hold them again or you will never talk to them again. And so it's like this mixture of emotions that I find to be really intricate and complex, but also just, I don't know, you're like so torn. Part of me really likes that feeling.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Hell yeah.
Great lyric pick. Yeah.
Mhm.
So would you be able to tell us where your headspace is at while you're creating this EP?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
We did the bulk of writing and recording it actually last summer. So this is like coming up on a year now since we actually wrote and recorded everything, and now it's all out. And it was an interesting one because like the first two EPs we wrote completely in lockdown, like, you know, the world was still pretty closed. Even when our second EP came out, everything, you know, we weren't touring or anything like that. And then these next two EPs, we were on the road. And so the writing and recording process was kind of in bursts because we would do it in between tours and stuff. So I think that you can hear how eclectic the EP is because we kept getting inspired. Like, I feel like every time we go on tour, we're inspired by the bands that we're playing with, and we're inspired by the travel and just the life experiences. And the long drives in the van are like a great environment for reflection and overthinking at times.
Yeah.
So I think that like you can maybe hear the journey, and it was like little bits and pieces of that year essentially. And we just really wanted to make something different from what we'd already done, but still keep ourselves consistent, like our art style. And I think the key to that was really just not overthinking about like what do people expect to hear. It was more just about what do we feel we need to write right now, you know?
Yeah.
So you don't get like thrown off like kind of having your process intertwined with touring and like constantly getting pulled away from the writing to hit the road. Like you kind of thrive in that and prefer that to just like hunkering down to write?
I mean, I don't even know if I'd say we prefer it. It's just kind of been our environment, and I'm grateful for it because I do love both environments. Like I really love kind of holding ourselves away and being creative and really focusing on the art. But I also need to travel, and I need those touring experiences. And I feel like if I'm too long in one place, I get a little stagnant, you know?
Yeah.
So it is a balance. We honestly, it is really cool to compare the first two EPs to the last two EPs, because the first two we were like just straight up just focused on writing every single day and recording every single day, because that was our world, you know? We couldn't really go outside and be around friends or like go on tour or anything. So sometimes I actually look back on those times fondly, and I kind of miss it a little bit.
Yeah.
But it also was the beginning of the band, so it was just an exciting time in general. And I do think there's something to be said for touring and like having life experiences while you're creating an album, because it keeps things fresh and you never really know what's going to come out, you know?
Absolutely. Now, you use the touring as like some of the inspiration while you're writing. Now, do you write on the road, or do you just kind of save all that inspiration and then let it out once you're back home?
It's certainly easier to write at home because there's just less distractions. And I personally like to sort of recluse myself when I'm writing and just be alone, or with Phoenix. But I don't really like writing around other people that much. However, you know, I've written a lot of lyrics on the road, or like I said, inspiration from watching some of the bands that we've performed with. It's like, you can't help it. When it hits, it hits. So if you're on tour when that happens, so be it. We wrote like some of our new stuff that's unreleased on our Australian tour that we just did, and it's kind of interesting to see how that different environment maybe influenced our sound, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you not like to write on tour because you're around other people? Is it more of a judgment anxiety thing, or is it more of a focus thing?
Oh my gosh. I think it's I think it's both, honestly. Yeah. It's like hard to tune out things like, and you know, we're not like a big band or anything, so we don't have like green rooms that are like, we're often sharing green rooms, we're often sharing hotel rooms, and then we're in the van together. So there really isn't a lot of solitude on tour. I feel like the most solitude you get is like in the shower or when you're walking, like maybe I'll go find a coffee spot somewhere before the show. But that's okay. I love the people that I tour with. I just want to make sure that that is known. Like, I love my band and I love our crew and stuff, but I just feel that maybe I'm not as vulnerable when I'm, especially lyrics. Like, I can write riffs and stuff around other people, but it's just the lyricism. I need to be kind of like honest with myself. And if I feel observed, I find that kind of hard.
I don't blame you.
Absolutely understandable. Yeah.
So how do you recommend your fans to listen to this EP for the first time? Should do in the car with friends and talk with headphones on? Is workout EP, party EP? What do you personally recommend?
Like how to experience the EP?
Yeah.
Ooh. I mean, I love going for a walk, putting headphones on, and just vibing. I love driving and listening to music for the first time. But I think I am proud of the sonics on the EP. So if you have good headphones, I would like recommend doing that. But yeah, those are my favorite ways personally for me to experience new music. If I'm like a band I like puts out music, I love just like kind of going for a walk and listening to it with my headphones, or going for a nice night drive and putting it on start to finish.
Hell yeah.
For sure. Yeah. So this one should be super, super quick off the top of your head. I want you to describe this EP for new listeners in 3 words. No more, no less.
No, 3 words. Okay. Okay, off the top of my head. I'd say it's ethereal.
Okay.
I'd say it's rage comes to mind, the word rage.
Okay, yeah.
Ethereal, rage, and I'd say it's healing, honestly. They're putting these songs out, it was really like, it felt cathartic, you know?
Yeah. I love that.
Hell yeah.
Wonderful.
And in that same train of thought, is there a certain feeling or emotion you want listeners to have while going through the EP?
The thing that I love about art is how subjective it is. And as an artist, you can try and have you can be intentional with the lyrics you write and with like the art as a format, but once it's out there, it's a little bit out of your control, like what people are going to feel when they listen to it or when they hear it, right? So I like when people project their own meaning onto things. I like when people find meaning in things that is relevant to them. And I guess the only thing that I hope people feel when they listen to our music in general is a sense of empowerment. Because we created this on our own. That's what we've always done. We write lyrics that are about issues that we're passionate about. And we had to learn a lot of skills in the process of creating this band that we didn't know before. And if we can do it, you can do it. Because we're not affluent people. We aren't like super educated in terms of like cinematography or engineering or producing, but we just kind of learned as we went along. And I think that I think anyone can do it. If you just put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. So yeah, I hope people feel empowered when they listen to it.
Absolutely. Fuck yeah.
So are you able to talk about any particularly challenging or standout moments during the creation of this album, positive or negative?
Ooh. Yeah. Yeah, I felt this one was difficult in terms of the timing because, like I said, Phoenix and I were moving at this time. So Phoenix moved before I did. So obviously that's a big like life change.
Yeah.
And then also balancing like I've always had a hard time balancing home life with work life because I love creating art so much. And I like define myself sort of by my art, which maybe isn't the healthiest relationship to have with it, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel so connected to it. And so I found myself getting really frustrated with like our focuses at times being so like I literally would feel like we were getting torn away from the studio because of life when we made this album. And I think on the flip side, that was a blessing because when we sat down together to create it, it felt like this sacred time that we really had to make an effort to like find time that would work for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in the past, you know, we were living together and we were quarantining together, so we had nothing but time.
Yeah.
So I think the challenge of it was not getting frustrated with my creative partner, like with Phoenix, and vice versa. And the good part of it was when it felt like we were onto something and we finally, after like really struggling to write, we got something that we really loved, like the first song that really impacted us. I honestly felt like I could cry. I was like, yes, we still have it. Yes, we got it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of the story of this whole EP as a process.
Absolutely. Hell yeah. So for this question, I want you to picture you're on tour. You had to guess you for a rest stop. What is your song of choice?
Oh man. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. When we go on tour in the States, the snacks are very different. And I love like those hot pickles, like the spicy pickles.
Oh, damn right. Mm-hmm.
It's literally like the best. Everyone hates me in the van, but I don't care. They're like so good.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
That's it. Yeah,
that's
right,
it. Okay,
yeah.
You caught me off guard. I was like, and oh no, just spicy pickle. That's completely fair.
All the answers have been so. I go on like a tangent, but this one is I'm very clear-headed with this one.
Yeah,
for sure.
The spicy pickles. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And on the topic of food, if the band was a dish, what dish would the band be and why?
I think we would be ramen for sure. Spicy ramen.
Okay.
Just because literally all four of us love ramen. So, or yeah, literally everybody that we like in the van, the crew included, we love ramen and it's kind of like the go-to. It's so comforting, but it's also very diverse and it's like a balance of flavors and it's got a lot going on, a lot of different flavors. I feel like there's a lot of different flavors in the van sometimes, but when we all come together, we create this awesome chemistry, and that's kind of like how I see ramen, you know, when it comes together.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Wonderful.
And for the last couple questions, going to shift completely away from music and go straight to death row.
Boom.
So if you're on death row, what would your last meal be with a drink?
Oh, see, like I love food. This is really hard.
We do too.
Okay. Well, if it's my last meal, I will have I'd probably want like a nice cocktail, and I love a whiskey sour. Make it a vegan one with like aquafaba, I guess.
All right. And
then for my last meal, you know what? I would probably pick like a Thai red curry. Just something really like comforting and like, you know, again, another blend of flavors, but
with spice.
Yeah. Yes, definitely a spicy one. Yeah.
All right.
And if you could live in one fictional world for a week, where would you live?
Honestly, I've been reading this book called When Women Were Dragons. And it's basically about like there's like a percentage of women. It's in the 50s, which is not so great. I definitely wouldn't want to live in the 50s for a week, but
yeah, that's fair.
These women basically molt and transform into dragons. And I feel like It would be cool to know what that would be like to fly, to be a dragon for a week. So yeah, I think that's my answer.
All right.
Yeah, that's sick as fuck.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I've thought of asking the last question. Every single person that we've spoken to have said that it is the most important question. What's your favorite color?
Ooh. Well, I feel like this one it might be obvious, but I've got to go with black, if you consider it a color.
So hypothetically, let's say I don't consider it a color. Like, what would you say, like, as your second answer?
If black isn't the color, I'll go with green. I love nature. I love grass. I love leaves. Green. I love the like grassy nature kind of green, forest green.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wonderful. Black and green. It's beautiful.
All right. So as I said, that's all the questions I have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Yeah, we're going on tour across the United States pretty soon. It'll be at the end of June and into July. We're touring with this band that's really sick. I feel like you guys would actually really like them, called Present.
Okay.
And they're like this really awesome blend of like grunge, and sometimes they remind me of like Deftones and like Swerve Driver. But then they have like really ethereal vocals that are really cool. So yeah, I feel like it's going to be a really fun tour.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you live in the States, come and check it out.
All right. Well, thank you for staying with us. It's been Mercedes from Softcult, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.